So I don't know what's going on. Hey there. Whatever. Welcome back. I got nothing. Not that I got nothing. I don't have a specific thing to talk about. Just a lot of, shower thoughts, one might say. And I don't take you in there. You're welcome. But sometimes they spill out. We'll see how they go. It's Saturday. It's nice. It's sunny. It's warm out. Already had my coffee out on the deck. Hopefully spend a good amount of time out on the deck. That's where I be. So today, to go with nice and warm and sunny, we've got St. Bart's, which is a coconutty, islandy type of scent. And using my big old, huge, I don't even know what I call this one anymore, blue swirl, just something synthetic thingy. So one thing I was thinking about is it's exciting times watching the kids these days in the upper echelons of high school. Gets excited. I was watching, sometimes when you're watching YouTube, it's all the same thing, and then there's this one like, where did that come from? So I think I don't know what YouTube thinks about me, because we're off on the watch journey right now. So all sorts of watch reviews and repair and all that kind of stuff. Mainly cigars, shaving stuff. That's kind of what's normally in my feed. And I think this happened one other time when I was like kind of half asleep listening to YouTube. The video ended, it rolled on over to like the first lecture in a college class about quantum physics, which was super interesting. How that ended up on my feed, I don't know. So I think that's how I ran across this this time, is same way that I was just listening and it kind of rolled into something else. But it was the sociology class at Penn State, I believe. And I think like a freshman social class, because, reminded, nice classroom they had, nicer than what we had, but, big, huge auditorium type thing. Professor's got a microphone on. He's got students up front to participate in conversations, and they have wireless microphones and big old projection displays. And I mean, pretty nice stuff. But it just happened to be, first of all, they were talking about, apparently part of their class is that they have to have, it sounded like focused conversations on certain topics in small groups. So they had rules about how you sign up for those and about if you miss one and all this kind of stuff. And it made me kind of miss, that time of life where you're like, that's where you're all about learning, and like serious learning, not like middle school, high school learning, but like, we're now here to talk about serious stuff and broaden your horizons and all that kind of learning stuff. And just the hearing kind of here's the expectations, here's what you have to do. I'm just like, yes. And then he had like people apparently roaming around that were his attendance folks. And I'm just like, yeah, because I think the kids think that, one, in high school, attendance seems like a little loosey-goosey. They don't make a big deal about it usually, which is a little frustrating to some of us parents. But I think they think college will be the same way. And I know it depends on the instructor. It depends on the professor. Some are just like, hey, your funeral, if you miss something important, we're all adults. You're paying for this education. I'm not. Up to you. But some, I imagine, especially this guy with sociology, because he's a good professor. The conversations are part of the learning and part of, so if you're not there for that, you're missing. So I can imagine that's probably why that attendance is a big deal for him. That enough that he's got people that are his attendance assistant. Anyway, so the part of the class was that just kind of setting guidelines and things. But apparently, it seems like the way he runs his class is that he has a, topic for the day. And I'm sure he's got some points he wants to make, but it sounds like he's got students that are up front at tables to voice their opinions on these things, which is pretty cool. And I'm not going to get into the content of what they were talking about or anything, but it's just, the topic was white privilege. And, just the way he approaches it and the way that, like I say, he's a good professor. And part of that to me is that he can say things that are kind of contradictory, but say them in the form of either, obviously what you're talking about as just the way that it is isn't a fact. It's just either how you grew up, that's the way it is, or just in this moment of time, it's just the way it is, but it always hasn't been that way. Or, what you're stating you think is a fact, isn't it right? Or what about this counter viewpoint that contradicts what you think? But anyway, say it in like an inquisitory way versus argumentative, and carries enough, authority that, your first response wouldn't just be like, oh, you're wrong. It kind of sounds like he knows what he's talking about. But then also that, make you think. And then setting kind of the environment where if it kind of makes you realize what you've been thinking may not mesh with kind of a broader view of things, then that's fine. It's not like, oh my gosh, I've been wrong, I should feel bad. It's like, hey, that's what we're here to do. Anyway, I was just kind of getting excited because my hope would be that all of our kids just have one or two classes that are like that. Just one or two where they're forced to see things from a different viewpoint, but in a good way, in a way that makes them think about it internally, not like this guy just said I'm wrong. Because I'm sure, as we all know, it's hard to, unless you're living somewhere, unless you're one of those people that has to relocate a lot and settle in different places and integrate into their society, seeing things on the news or reading stories and all that is completely different than, Weeper down there. Completely different than understanding, like truly understanding, because we can tell the kids, hey, people, most parts of the country don't have it as good as you, or they have to struggle more, or, getting into a college is much harder, this and that. And they can just say, yeah, I know, but, unless you see the ramifications of that, or how maybe that changes a basic viewpoint they might have, just because the way they grew up was so much different. And that's why they think that way, because they have other things to work. Anyway, that's all. I was just hoping that, college is college and you learn things and you may or may not use a lot of it, but forming your mind and all that stuff. Good stuff. That's where the money goes to. You can learn things in books, right? You don't need to sit in a classroom to learn the things. You need to learn to think. My shaving channel is getting way too serious. Oh, if you're still here, if you didn't tune out, because like I hear you, geez, this guy, it's like I'm tuning into like my therapist class or something. Tomorrow, if everything goes right, special guest star for the video. None of this deep topic, or probably not. Anyway, if you're watching this today on Saturday, woo, get excited about tomorrow. It hopefully is the start of a whole new series on my channel, which I'm excited about. If it works out, I'm excited about this. So we'll see. We will see. What else? Oh, I shared this in my journal. I'm also excited that I'm not spending today charging my car. Quick history, we own a house elsewhere, installed a rapid charger in that house, had to move to this house to rent this house, which has nothing. It had nothing. No way that I can even charge the car at all. No grounded outlets at all outside the house. So I get legacy free supercharging with my car. So that's what I've been doing for 3 years, is taking it to a supercharger at least once a week and sitting there and charging it up. And I've got a short enough commute to work that for the most part, once a week will do her. And then they built a few more superchargers since then. So sometimes I'll stop on the way home and charge for a little bit just to kind of shorten the times I need to sit there. Anyway, had to have an electrician out to change some of the motion sensor lights outside the house. I would have done that if we owned the house, but we don't own it. And I would have also turned off the electricity, so it would have been a matter of, you know, finding the breakers. And we have a tenant in part of the house, kind of like an in-law unit, and I didn't want to switch the wrong breaker and have him lose his internet and stuff. So anyway, we were just fine having the landlord make connections and get this guy out here. And so when he came out, I also said, hey, so there is an outlet in the carport, but it's only 2 prongs. It's not grounded. And I kind of said, you know, can you look at that and see how big of a pain it would be to add grounding to that outlet so I could maybe charge? And he just brought out a little gizmo, plugged it in, and said it's grounded. So turns out the outlet is grounded anyway. They just, I don't know why, you know, some people's kids, you know, aren't the smartest or the best workers in the world or whatever, but the box that they put in didn't have the little grounding plug thing on it. So boom, that's all he had to do. He changed out the little outlet thing, and now it's a grounded outlet, and I can plug in my car. And yes, it will cost us a little bit more in electricity. That's what we will find out, is how much the cost will go up. But it saves me from going and sitting in my car on the weekends to charge it up. Beautiful. Again, it's just a regular 110, 120 outlet. So it charges pretty slow, but like I said, my commute is pretty short. So if when I plug it in when I get home and unplug it when I leave for work, it charges more than it uses. And since I'm able to do that, I've done that now over 2 nights. So when I started this whole process, it was at 25%, right? It was getting close to where I'd have to go and charge it anyway. This morning, it's up to 60% after 2 nights of charging. And if I don't use it much this weekend, it's sitting there charging all day long too. And so in theory, even if I take longer drives and go into the city, stuff like that, on the days where I don't and just go to work, I can catch up for that. So we'll see. Anyway, it's nice to have options like this, like using Nivea 2-in-1. This is a great option. This moment of Wapah brought to you by Hombre's Barbershop, the sweetest smelling barbershop in Tucson. You hear that? This guy, my poor Aquanon, dingling around in there. It's still got some juice in it, but that was kind of annoying. I don't want to get rid of it if it's still got some juice in it. There you go. So anyway, that's the quick. We'll make this one quick. Hopefully, if everything goes well tomorrow, it'll be a little bit longer video, just because it'll be so enjoyable. There you go. We'll hit up the old Tommy Bahama St. Bart's. Yeah. I smell like I'm ready for the beach. Alrighty. Thank you for joining me. See you tomorrow.